Welcome back to Politics, Please. I'm Paul Simone, and in today's episode, we'll be talking about the TikTok ban and Trump's inauguration. I am here today with, who am I here with?
I'm Holly.
And I'm Leah.
And what do you think happened with TikTok? Since as we know, Saturday it was banned, and then 12 hours later, it was reinstated with a message saying that thanks to President Trump, TikTok is being negotiated on of maintaining its place.
All right. I don't use TikTok. I didn't know much about it, but from what I did see when I looked it up, it seemed like it was partially a security concern with a lot of the terms and stuff of TikTok, kind of asking for a little bit more of your personal information than that app should have to know. And then also, some people have said that it's a little bit of Trump's agenda, trying to disconnect with foreign businesses. Honestly, I do use CapCut, or I did, and when I heard that it was going to be deleted, I was like, that sounds strange. I should check it out. So I read their terms and conditions, and I deleted it myself, and I will not be getting it back.
Could you say what you saw that kind of surprised you, or what it was that made you delete it?
I'm sure this is the case with a lot of apps, but it said it tracks your data a lot, and honestly, I don't really think the video editing software that I use needs to do that. And obviously, all apps harvest your data, whatever, but not all apps are banned by the government temporarily, so I was kind of done with that.
And Holly, what did you think?
Honestly, I think all apps, first of all, take your data. That's why the internet is free, is because they sell your data. But I don't know. I don't really have that strong of an opinion either. I know a lot of my friends were really upset about the TikTok ban because that they like to send videos to their friends, and it's a very big social platform for a lot of people. And I have heard people say that that's where a lot of people do get their news and information, for better or worse. I feel like some people trust it a little bit more to get information and share opinions because it is unfiltered, and I know there are a lot of people who don't trust traditional media because they feel like it's funded by people with an agenda, so regardless, you're getting something that's biased. Overall, I've heard people say that they think that Trump somehow planned it to be banned to bring it back to give himself a boost, and I think that's reaching that's reaching a little bit. But I don't know. I think overall people had a right to be upset about it, and they have a right to be happy that it's back. But it was gone for 13 hours. I know a lot of people are worried that the government intentionally banned it, not because of it collecting data, but because they want to somehow suppress media more. And it's interesting to bring up and to talk about, but I don't know if I particularly agree with that. But it is kind of interesting. I think that I don't think it should be banned, because it's a way people talk to each other, and all apps use your data. But yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that it's back, and I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue going forward because it got back, and I don't think it's getting banned again.
Yeah, I don't know, because I know Trump is doing a 90-day thing to figure it out, and some numbers are being thrown in the air as 50% American-owned, 50% owned by ByteDance, which is a company in China. And I can see both sides of I think having less data share is important, but people make a living off of TikTok. People use it for their jobs. People use it to connect with their communities. And I feel just a flat out ban doesn't properly pinpoint the problem. And so kind of moving on here, Trump's inauguration was this Monday, Martin Luther King Day, where he was sworn into office for the second time. And he introduced a lot of executive orders his first day into office. Trump is enacting the death penalty so if you're an immigrant and you do some kind of a crime that is ranked as severe enough, you can be subjected to the death penalty, which hasn't happened I don't know the exact number, but hasn't happened in a long time. There hasn't been an execution.
So, what kinds of crimes exactly?
So from the article, which is what this is based off of, a BBC article, it's any capital crime committed by an alien illegally present in this country, and anyone convicted of murdering a law enforcement officer.
How are they classifying like a capital crime? Just a murder of someone in a high position specifically, or like what constitutes a capital crime?
By definition, a capital crime is perjury resulting in the execution of an innocent party, kidnapping, treason, robbery, lynching, crimes of extreme danger to life, burglary, train wrecking, and arson.
Okay, so don't do any of those things, obviously. I would hope that people don't do them. I don't know exactly how I feel about that. I mean, the death penalty is something that I am generally opposed to, but I'm also opposed to murder, so...
Does it only apply to illegal immigrants, though?
Only to illegal aliens, yes.
Yeah, that seems a little bit...
That if you're gonna apply it to everybody. It's murder is still murder. It doesn't matter like if you're here illegally or not. That to me is just kind of.
I can see where it's coming from. I mean, the national government does have a responsibility to protect its citizens, and I think, I do think Trump is taking the whole citizens first thing like way too far. Because honestly, governments exist to protect everybody, but I can see where the idea would come from.
I see the idea. Yeah, I can't say that I like it if it's like only applied to a specific group of people, because I get that like illegal immigration is a problem, but at the same time, like the way to go about it it's not by applying an unjust like precedent to them, because if you're gonna punish somebody for a crime, I don't care, it has to be equal. If someone is here illegally and you want to consider that a crime, then and you want to have a punishment for that, fine, but you can't add on to a completely different punishment for a completely different crime depending on where someone is from or depending on if they've done other things. Unless it's like, oh, you have like 5 counts of like this. But it just, you look like you want to jump in.
I mean, it would probably make sense then more to say like, we'll have a like small punishment for being in the country illegally, and then on top of that, have a separate punishment that's the same for everyone, like if you commit a capital offense. What do you think?
I am vehemently opposed to the death penalty. I think it goes against what prison is for. What it should be, at least, is a rehabilitation. And I feel like just executing somebody is just saying that that prison system is incapable of its duty to rehabilitate.
I like that. Well, it's also important to recognize that too, like a lot of people who end up in prison, like they need rehabilitation. They're not objectively bad people. A lot of them have mental health issues. A lot of them have addiction problems. And in other countries where they take a better, more rehabilitative approach, you see like things happening a lot better.
Okay, my personal view on the prison system is more that it should function as punishment than rehabilitation, because you need some way to prevent these crimes from being committed in the first place. And in order to do that, people can't be expecting to go to like a nice prison where everyone's going to treat them well and try to like rehabilitate them, because honestly, like obviously the government should not have the power to kill its citizens, which is why I'm opposed to the death penalty generally. But I do think that there needs to be punishments for crimes so that people won't commit them.
Okay, and now to our last topic, government reforms. So one of the biggest things, a thing that has gotten a lot of controversy, is the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which is a department of government, an advisory body, which is meant to focus on cutting government costs, which will be led by Elon Musk. How do you think it'll function, considering that Elon Musk is an engineer and not in any regards a politician?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that also he's the one trying to do government cutting when he has like a absurd amount of wealth. And so if you're going to cut government spending, I think I read something, please correct me. Didn't he say, how much money did he say he wanted to cut from the budget? Like spending wise, because I heard somewhere that he wanted to cut more than it would take to like pay all of the workers. If you cutting money, it has to come from somewhere. And I'm like a little concerned on where he intends to cut it from, because he's not an economist. He's not qualified. He's an engineer. Like, if you're going to make a bold claim like that, you have to have like a distinct plan to back it up. And again, I don't know if he does or not, but it's like a little concerning.
I am a little bit amused at the fact that they created an entire new department with employees that they have to pay in order to make them have to pay fewer people.
And named it Doge.
So to answer your question, Holly, from a BBC article published in November of last year, he is trying to cut at least $2 trillion from the U.S. government spending by eradicating waste, is a direct quote from that. Do you think that like Musk will actually run this like branch of government, or is he just going to be like a figurehead?
He's not qualified to run it, so I'd hope he doesn't. He also, a lot of like stuff I've heard about his leadership skills in general are not encouraging as well. I've heard a lot about him, like I heard somewhere, like you'd have to fact check this, but that his what's it called, like car manufacturers have the most OSHA violations by like 10 times more than his, like most of the competitors. Again, look it up. But because I don't want to say something misleading, but I've heard just a lot of stories about him like not adhering to proper regulations.
Just like an introduction, from Forbes 2022, and from like data from 2014 to 2018, Tesla was fined $236,000 for 54 different violations.
Which is a lot. That's just kind of concerning. And he has the money to be able to not have a bunch of OSHA violations and the power to do so. So that's just speaks on his character, and I find that a little distressing. I definitely think that, and this is kind of moving on to something else that I know is one of Trump's policies, about the economy. I think to focus more on antitrust laws. I know he wants to do tariffs, but I think like focusing on antitrust laws would be better, because essentially we have a bunch of monopolies. I mean, even at the inauguration, like a bunch of billionaires like showed up, and that's a big percentage of the world's wealth just sitting there in that room. And we're kind of okay. So that's how they kind of broke apart the Gilded Age, like 100 years ago.
You want to join in?
Yeah, you want to join in? Okay, we got a new person.
Okay, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Leti Carrasco Garcia.
How are your feelings on what were you saying?
We were talking about the economy in general.
Yeah. The economy is interesting, but you mentioned that like a lot of rich people were at the ceremony, but what I want to point out is that they were not only on the ceremony, but they were also like right behind him. So that shows how much power they really hold, because they're not only like is Trump putting different people that are not qualified for their positions, but they're putting like huge people that already have the power and like probably will just take more depending on how much, participation they will take from the government.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So like again, kind of tying it back to history and kind of the Gilded Age, because I think there are some parallels to what we're talking about. Do you think that history is like repeating itself a little bit with that, and that they are getting involved in government for selfish interests?
Yeah, I think it's different. It is the same, because like it is repeating itself. It's gonna be the same thing. It's gonna take our main resources, and it's gonna not only like when he said like drill baby drill, like, he's taking our main resources that like will not only affect us economically, but also like our climate. And like and also like before the 30s, the people that also like the way that they tried to fix it was also like the immigration thing that they did for us, like the after during the Dust Bowl, like they tried to get like immigrants out of the country, and they're trying to do that again. But the thing is that the last time they did that, they also like were getting into a deeper depression, like in the 30s. So it's seriously just repeating itself. I think something important that I heard also is just like to keep your hope about it, because like people are not dumb. People would understand that we're not just gonna give ourselves to the rich. We're gonna be like speak out the best as we can, but again with the limits.
What do you think, Leah?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think when you're talking about the golden age or the Gilded Age, you're talking about like, oh, we should implement laws that they did to break that up. Not sure if you remember, but what happened after the Gilded Age, after it was broken up, was the Great Depression and then World War II. In my personal opinion, I think we should probably look for different ways to handle our current situation.
I do think that like you need to be careful with it. And I'm not like the most educated person to be talking about this, but the Great Depression was also caused by like a lot of other factors as well. They had just gone out of the First Great War, and there was just like a lot of other factors going on in the economy and in the world at that time.
Yeah, I think it is important with the like the Great Depression talk to think of like economically, like worldwide, we are doing better than we were at that point. We might not for long, seeing as how like events are currently and how like some people think that we're going to be like entering a third world war like in the next 10 years. But does anyone have anything else they'd like to say just before we wrap up?
I mean, I guess just like to be hopeful about this new thing. We can do something. We can still do something because we can learn from our history and we can push ourselves to like help people that are vulnerable right now. And like the last thing we can do right now is freak out, because if not, we'll just get depressed and not do action, which is the important thing. So like I guess just to be hopeful, which is the most important thing. Just like show kindness to everyone, no matter what.
That was great. Thank you guys so much. You can find Holly and Leah at Holly Tries It, where they try new events and new things, and there will be a new episode of that coming soon. All right, well, thank you so much for listening, and come back for more politics next time.